How'd that happen? Public Works, this is the thing. Just for budget season, we need a larger, like, desk area. Just for budget season. I think this, I don't know, what do you think? Is this gonna take forever or what? Hope it's up front.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the budget meeting, November 10th, Public Works, Capital Projects, and Capital Improvements Plan. We're starting on page 143 in the white book, 139 in the blue book, and I don't know if we want Mr. Emili or Mr. Barron to come up and give us an overview. Don't all jump at once.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For the operating budget, things, I mean, we kept the operating expenses largely in check with last year. I mean, you will see some decreases in the budgetary fund balance. That's largely a result of some larger purchases related to our OSI, environmentally sensitive, some of the larger land acquisitions we recently had this year, like the Spangler property, the St. Anthony's property in Lower Mount Bethel, as well as the fund balance is also decreasing because the annual payments that we must make for the P3 program are starting to decrease finally. So that largely accounts for the difference in the operating budget.
Are we on administration yet?
Okay, let's start. Any questions for Mr. Mealy to start? Okay, let's work, Public Works Program Summary. Public Works Administration Summary. Some of these numbers, like in the insect pest management or the recycling, are they subject to change, or those are just, because again, they're just decreasing? Or they're, no, those are increasing, sorry.
So the insect pest management, there is a small increase to the operating budget, and that is due to, we are accounting for potential need for gypsy moth treatments next year. That's about $9,000, so that accounts for that increase there. It's really just as a contingency in case we need to treat for gypsy moths.
Any other questions regarding administration? Okay, next we have insect pest management. Can I double back to the administration? There's no easements are just in the pooled fund? Is that because they're yet to be identified? On page 140 in the blue book?
Yeah, sure.
So all the expenses fall into the pooled funds, and then they rotate up. So as we do our projections, the easement money, so that the operating overall went down in that line item, but we roll them up. So we're showing you where we spent that money and what kinds of expenses come out of that particular line item. But the pooled operating is what we'll need for the entire year. And then as we get the expenses in, they're categorized as such. Those are out there for projections.
Right, so as the need arises, that's when we.
Yeah, like in
we'll
every
fund.
other budget, you'll see the pooled is what we expect to need, and then that, you see the projections, they roll up.
Okay, thank you. Insect pest management.
Okay, quick question.
Sure.
I see a black fly is specified. The one that we've had real trouble with recently, it just skips my mind now. Yeah, spotted lanternfly,
I was like,
that's
how
it.
could you forget that?
Well, I had a lot fewer of them this year than I did the year before. What's the outlook for that, and is there any money specifically targeted for spotted lanternfly?
Brian, do you want to speak to this at all? I know that our vector control technician he does go out and install some of the sticky band traps in our county parks and maintains that as a way to control the population locally. Brian might be able to speak further on spotted lanternfly in general.
Yeah, just real briefly, the county has a good partnership with USDA and the Pennsylvania Department of Ag. They help a lot with the spotted lanternfly protection. We get some funds through the Conservation District for traps and such, and that's really where that all comes into it.
So that line item would be in the Conservation District's budget?
It
for?
was.
It was? Okay, there's nothing in yours then?
Correct.
Any other questions? Solid waste and recycling?
I have a question about that.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a fund balance that reflects unspent portions available only to solid waste and recycling fund. Is there any projection of where that money might be allocated in the future? Because I know one of the things that has been absent this year and through COVID is an e-recycling.
I didn't hear you. Is the what recycling?
Like electronic waste
Yes.
recycling. Like,
Yeah.
we really need that, and it would be great if we could set some funds up for that. Just a suggestion, unless you have projected.
I'll let Serena Davis, our Environmental Services Coordinator, speak to it a little bit further, but we have been hosting, or basically just our municipalities have been hosting their own e-cycling events this year that have been funded by Northampton County. Serena, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
That's correct. We've been funding municipal-only events.
Perfect answer.
They're a lot more manageable that way, so it's been successful.
So it's been accessible to those municipalities. Can anybody in Northampton go to those?
Most are resident-only. That's the point, to
Right.
keep them smaller, and you're not waiting, 5-6 hours.
Right, but not every municipality has. them.
Correct. They would have to
Exactly.
host the event. We're paying for it, but they would have to host it.
Do they know that they can host the event?
Yeah, we had about half.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, this year.
But we can't host one as Northampton County?
We had to do a pre-registration plan, and the events are just getting very hard to manage. I mean, there's limited locations that we can have 1,000 cars come to without waiting 5-6 hours.
Sure are, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
There's a lot of e-waste out there, though, and not just in the municipalities that had them. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, like, specifically, I live in Hanover. I don't remember seeing one in Hanover. I do remember seeing a paper shredding event, but like e-waste is important. So is there any allocation for that fund balance then, or is that just gonna ride?
My program funding, yeah, we have money as long as they're willing to host the event. We can continue our program, so.
Okay, but
If
is
you
there
want
any
to mention
other
to them, they're more than willing, I mean, they can have the event, they just need to have
I'll
it.
reach out to the municipality then and
Right.
just talk to.
Yeah, information went out, and the program, the reminder will go out again at the end of the year for 2022.
Okay, great. But again, for that fund balance that's restricted to just
Right.
solid waste. Do you
Special
have-
waste recycling.
Yeah, do you have anything that you project that you're going to need that for, or that you're going to
Oh,
do?
yeah, well, the program, we're going to continue, so we would need to continue to fund that, so.
When you say the program, you mean just solid waste and recycling, like?
Well, the
overall
e-waste
program?
program,
Yeah.
hazardous waste is
Okay.
tentatively planned for 2022. Shredding, it's touchy with shredding, since it's not really a special waste item, but they are popular and well-attended.
It's odd.
People like to shred.
It's cathartic, I think, I don't know, but,
Yeah.
okay, just asking.
I like to support what you're saying, because I think what happened is the municipalities were having them and got used to the county hosting them, because that's what happened in my, because I was able to drive into Lower Saucon and get it done, but now they're like, oh, we're not doing it because the county is. And I think the expectation was that you were, so if you have
Right.
copies of what you sent out, I would appreciate if you would forward that to council.
Of course.
Because then we could pass it on and make sure that they understand. I mean, I'd love if we'd have one, because I have a lot of e-waste that I've been saving to give to you, but, you know, I'll
Yeah.
get it to whoever's having it.
That'd be great, thank you.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Myers, you had a question?
Not a question, a request, and I think you answered it for us, if you can get it to us, so we can let the locals out, we can let people know.
Yes, I will.
Some spots that I had no idea they were doing it. Okay.
But then if you're not a resident, you can't
You
take
can't do it
part in
anyway.
You
it,
can
so
only do it
it's
in your
used.
residency where you're at.
Right.
Yeah, I saw one posted in Plainfield.
That was a joint, so that was pretty much slate belt.
Yeah,
You mentioned shredding. I know the shredding gets really, it's popular, and you get cars lined up. Is there a chance that we have it in the budget where we could do multiple shredding events for county residents?
Well, we just had 3,
Right.
September, October, November. It's technically, my program is for special waste, so as long as the landfills that are hosting or providing the funding, as long as they continue to contribute that fee, if they're okay with the shredding events, I don't see a
I
problem
mean,
with
is this
it.
the same as you meant, the municipalities, they have to agree? Or I thought
No,
this is.
my funding
county?
comes from landfills. They contribute a host fee.
Okay,
So with that, I'm able to have these events. However, since paper shredding is technically not special waste, as long as they're okay with that, I don't see why we couldn't have shredding, but
who's they? The
pretty much waste
landfill?
management. It was advanced disposal, but they sold their landfills when they were
But they
acquired.
still pay a host fee, don't they?
Advanced disposal, no, they do not. They're no longer, so they sold, their hauling went to waste management and their landfills went elsewhere.
Oh, so because the ownership changed, we're not getting any?
We get, pretty much waste management is our sole contributor. So as long as they have no issue with shredding events.
So it would be them saying, we don't want you to spend our host fee money
On
on
materials
shredding.
that they could recycle since they have their own facility for
I see what you're
recyclables.
saying. Well, but, all right, I don't, it's not you. Think they're gonna get the paper that's shredded.
No, the company, we are the vendor.
Oh, you
sells
have the
it.
vendor and he just takes it away. All right, now
they
I'm
sell it to
clear.
a market.
Oh, God,
It becomes toilet paper.
capitalist bureaucracy. All right, so I guess the question then would be, if possible. I know you mentioned if we could have maybe one in the spring or summer.
Right.
I mean, if they allow it, and if we have a
Right.
place to do it, I just know, I'm just giving you feedback that, first of all, the shredding's popular,
Right.
and second, that the only thing I've heard was you can wait forever, and you may, if you don't come at the right time, you won't get in anyway. I don't know if that's true. And could we have them more often? That's all, just around the county. So
Thank
if
you for
that's,
that feedback. That's
yeah, if
good
that's
stuff.
possible, it's just feedback from people.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Did the county not host one this weekend?
We did.
I know I got diverted, I think, because of the shredding event. Mr. Cusick.
Yeah, we used to have really successful ones at the community college. Yeah, those worked out really well. My question is with the actual recycling itself. There's been an issue lately where it's been unable to go anyplace. Have you found that as an issue, and how are we processing it when in fact many of the recyclers are no longer taking it because there's nowhere to put it?
It's getting better. just the contamination is what the issue is. People sometimes assume that when it's a single stream, that means you can mix your trash and recycling together, which is no good. Other than that, though, I believe it's getting a lot better, recycling-wise. I know the landfills had some issue with the rain. They got backed up, a lot of the flooding. That's why a lot of people were missed, because there was nowhere to take it. However, I think that's gotten better for the most part. But recycling, and in general, there's places to take it as long as it's clean recycling.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
very
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yeah, I'm not going to make my comment, but we all know where I stand on recycling. Waste management, you said is a sole contributor?
Mhm.
So what happened to all the other companies?
Well, the other two were in Lycoming County. They opted out for this plan, 2021 to 2030. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was something. And advanced disposal is no longer. So we had 4 contributors, and
But now we only have 1. So
Correct.
waste management gets everything?
they give us everything.
They give us everything?
Yeah, we're not, yeah.
Well, yeah, so I'm just a little concerned about having one entity that we're kind of dependent on for some of these things in this funding.
Okay, thank you. Should I stand next to you?
So we're not just dependent upon them. They're not required by law to do it. So I suspect they do it to be a good corporate citizen of the county. None of them are required by law to do it. You're welcome.
Are they the only one located in the county? Physically located corporation?
We have 3 landfills in the county, Sharon, Bethlehem, and Waste Management.
What's Bethlehem's new name?
Bethlehem Landfill, it was IESI,
Okay.
and now it's
Oh, yeah.
Bethlehem Landfill in Lower Saucon.
Yeah, the Bethlehem landfill.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah.
They've been around for a little bit.
I smell that.
So, yeah. So there's no,
Any other questions regarding this matter?
wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Parks and Recreation. Any questions?
Yeah, just a personnel question. I remember last summer you had difficulty hiring people. Were you able to find summer help that met your requirements last year?
Yeah, we were able to find enough summer help to keep going.
Yes, sir?
Michael, the drop in intergovernmental of 320,000, is that attributed to just budgeting from the state, or I would assume the state level that they just cut? It's on the white on page 149.
Yep.
Top. I just see that your intergovernmental
It's,
drop.
I believe it's largely driven by the grant funding that's being spent down, largely, I think it's from the Act 13 DCNR grants that are being spent down.
Okay, so that's like in a pot, whatever grants you get, you consider that's the intergovernmental line item.
Correct, yes.
All right, so any one of those are combination spending down.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Zirinsky?
So, I want to follow up on Mr. Cusick's question, because the seasonal employees, because they're not year-round, some of them had concerns that they needed to re-up at their own expense their like fingerprints and background checks. So, is that still something that's at their expense, or is there any room in the budget where the county could help with that expense or reimburse people who stay the whole time? Or is there anything that we could do about that? Because I know they're not making like a large sum of money, and that could be somewhat of a deterrent, you know, especially for returning people to have to get that every year. You know what I mean? So, so the question that arose was, is there anything that we can do in the budget to include background checks, or could we just accept somebody who is rehired that they had their background check already? I mean, is there anything within our restricting that?
I don't believe there's anything in the budget for it, but it's something that we can look into in terms of county policy.
Okay. I would like you to look into that because it was brought to my attention by several of the employees who would really appreciate that little gesture. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Meyer?
I appreciate you're looking into it, but we got other employees who got to pay for their background checks. Do we not?
We do. I think Ms. Zirinsky's talking about seasonal employees that come back multiple years and have to incur that expense every year.
What's it, $10, $20?
No, it's more than that now.
I don't know, I just did mine. It wasn't that damn expensive.
That was my
Depends on if you need the FBI,
Yeah,
it's $85.
85?
Yeah, when I got mine done for Lehigh, it was not cheap. So,
Are we going to reimburse the rest of our employees at $85?
Well, I think,
that's not in this budget. It's Parks and Recreation.
I don't care.
I would think if you're doing something in bulk, it doesn't cost as much.
May I ask?
Sure.
Which background checks are required for these seasonal workers? Is it the FBI, the state police, and the child abuse? Or is it just one or all three? Because all three of them cost about $49, $48 for all three of them.
So it depends on whether or not you live in multiple states and what type of FBI background check you need to get, which could make it up to $85. So we will look into it and let you know. But it depends on whether this person lives in New Jersey and comes over to Pennsylvania. But for the background checks, normally, like the Identigo or whatever, we'll do all three of them right then and there.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
but I think the point was being made. I think the point needs to be made. These are the lowest, most likely the lowest paid employees in the county, the part-time seasonal workers. And I don't believe there's any other employees that would have an annual test like this. And generally, we hire somebody, they get tested, and I believe that's good. I don't believe there's annual testing for our employees other than the seasonal. So I think there would be a real good reason to take a look at this individual group of workers and, you know, maybe next year, you know, pick up this. So I would be in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lott. Any other questions on this matter? Moving on to Louise Moore Pine behest. Any questions, comments, Mr. Cusick?
Just one. To me, it became apparent that Louise Moore Pine was able to save a lot of money because she never fixed anything in her house. And what's happened is we've had to sink almost the entire inheritance into upgrading it and bringing it up to code. And now, as we had speculated at the time, since we've done that, the money is essentially gone. So almost from an accounting standpoint, I think it would almost make sense to spend this $17,200 remaining at some point, and just have the county assume it as part of our regular maintenance schedule and property, because we're not gonna be able to fix too much or do too many more repairs with $17,200. That being said, is there any more work that needs to be done on that building? I know we've spent a lot of money.
No, it should be in good shape for the foreseeable future.
Okay, the other question is, from time to time, we get requests for meeting space. Have you been able to utilize that meeting space there for either the public or for government use?
Yeah, I know that there's been multiple meetings held. Brian, which groups have meetings out there? The ProSab? Yeah, the advisory board meets at Louise Park, and the Watershed Coalition meetings are held there. So it does get used fairly regularly.
Any other questions? Moving on to the Open Space Initiative County Parks. Any questions?
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Mike, is there any, in this, any updates or upgrades that we're doing in the parks? Is that going to be part of this?
Yes, this is one of the funding sources we can use for our county park upgrades, the other being the capital improvement funds.
Okay, that's what I want to find out. Good, thanks.
Can we move on to Open Space Initiative Municipal Parks? Moving on to Open Space Initiative Environmentally Sensitive. Moving on to Act 13.
Can we
Yes,
go
sir.
just a little bit slower?
On the fund balance on that minus 81%, is that just money that we're carrying from one year to the next? What's the story with that?
The reason that the fund balance is down so much in this org is because we essentially borrowed against the $1 million that we would be contributing in 2022 and used it this year to acquire the Spengler property in East Allen, the 112 acres.
So that's where that money came from, Spangler? Okay,
Correct.
that explains. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I could just follow up then, I see the only thing remaining for open space, environmentally sensitive, is $383,000. That really doesn't go very far anymore, I guess. Is there, are there no projects that you envision next year, or is that 383 sufficient for what's maybe being percolated behind the scenes?
Wasn't that the budget previously? It's just that they borrowed against.
We keep an ongoing list of potential properties, but as of now, it's dwindled, and with the Spangler property is taking it on as a county piece of property, we had to strike when the iron's hot at that time, so that's why we used that money at that time to purchase that land.
Okay, so for the next year then, you don't anticipate anything, any expenditure more than that 383,000 in open space initiative spending?
It all comes and goes, and we don't have a concrete number or potential property that I can sit here and say yes to that. As Spangler, we saw this year, it came up mid-year, and we had the funds to do it.
Okay.
But we're always in touch with our land conservancies, and they've been a little less on land preservation, especially this past year. So,
So if something comes up next year, then the only number we have in the budget then is the $383,000. Am I correct?
So we put $3 million into the open space initiatives throughout the year. Some of that money that was allocated towards environmentally sensitive, because the Spangler property clearly had an environmentally sensitive component to
Yeah,
it.
and I
That's why we
voted
pulled
for
it out of there. Now, if a piece of land fits into a county park, we could spend open space money to purchase that land for a county park. We could also move the money in that bucket with council's approval, but it would be going towards open space. So for example, if we have, I think we spent 1.6, so we still have $1.5 million in there. There's a fund balance of $380-some thousand for environmentally sensitive, but if a property comes up we can get for $600,000 and we have the 1.5 in another bucket, it wouldn't preclude us from going after that piece of land if it was environmentally sensitive, whether we were going to use it for a park or not. So the bottom line is all those open space initiatives together have that pot of money, and the county executive has put $3 million into that each and every year, and the 2022 budget has $3 million. It's just we struck while the iron was hot for the Spangler property now, which will go to close sometime next month.
That makes sense.
Does that make
All right.
sense?
Thank you.
Mr. Heckman?
What, Steve, when you say the bucket, I know we have buckets everywhere. What specific bucket is this money put in?
So open space, what we've done is we've looked at the need every year for the $3 million. So if municipal parks need money, for example, playground equipment, there's a building, cameras, those types of things that improve municipal parks. To keep that open space money going, we put, say, $500,000 there. And then we knew that we were going to be purchasing some environmentally sensitive land. One of the favorite topics, you might remember the bog turtles. If we had, money, we would put $1 million there, $1 million in farmland preservation, which is part of open space, and then another $1 million in county parks.
Well, you mentioned the 1.3 and then the 3 million, the executive. Where is that? Where would I find that number in the budget?
You'll find them all throughout those open space initiatives. You'll see the county contributions in there and the fund balances and what we're anticipating spending. That all adds up to $3 million in the end.
Okay.
And what
I mean,
Mr.
there's some of them that shows nothing budgeted for 2022 in county contributions. So I was just double checking. So,
Yeah.
so it's spread around.
Correct. And
So
what
there's no
Mr.
one
Myers.
specific budget.
Right,
for-
correct. And what
Okay.
Mr. Myers so astutely pointed out is that we're spending 81% of that money because of the projection this year, and there's going to be less in the 2022 budget of the $3 million because while we had that money, we're spending it this year.
Right, I'm good.
Clarification from me. Municipal parks, what do you mean by that? That means like a city-owned park?
It's all the parks that are owned and operated by our municipalities.
So, clear in my head, the property that's now Eastern Iron Metal that I guess the city's trying to turn over, is that something that we would, because it's an environmental problem? Are we contributing to that?
No.
Different budget.
Yeah, different.
Okay. That's a different budget of something else.
DCED?
Yep.
Yeah, that would come from DCED,
From where?
Community and Economic Development.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
One more thing on the parks. So the pooled money, when you get, you'll wait for requests for these parks, or do they actually do maintenance? And they pretty much, this money's for when they apply for money available for their park. So one of these townships or boroughs can say, hey, we want to put an application in for, we want to do this. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, we'll do waves of grant applications that are open to the municipalities that will fund through either the municipal parks or the livable landscapes. Earlier this year, I think there was about 12 projects that council had approved for various funding. So those are the two orgs where those projects are funded.
And the ones that are showing on page 151, are those the only ones that qualify, or is there actually more? These are just the ones that received money in the past? The blue book.
I would, I mean, there's a pretty healthy number of applicants every
There
single
is.
year. We can't afford to fund every single project that is pitched to us. So Brian and Sherry Acevedo, they go through the list of all the grant applications that we received. They select the most appropriate ones, and then it's ultimately up to council to.
So there could be more than just what's listed here. Because there's obviously more boroughs in our county, so, okay.
In
It's just
terms
that
of-
they may have not applied in the past, and that's why their name's not here, correct?
Yes.
That's all I was looking for clarification. Thank you.
I lost where we were. I think we were on environmentally sensitive, correct?
We just talked about that.
Act 13 Environmental Initiative. Act 13 Environmental Initiative, page 155 and page 150.
Can I get an explanation what Act 13 is?
These are the Marcellus Shale funding that we received from the state.
I didn't know, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just follow up. Marcellus Shale, there's no disruption. I mean, that's continuing. I know the state hasn't decided they may go one way or the other yet, or I know it's been debated, but that's a steady amount we get each year.
It's pretty consistent, yes. I think it's gone down a bit in recent years, but it's fairly consistent.
Because I forget, what's that based on? They're out, what they get out, and then they take a proportion and it's spread around? I mean, the state collects it, correct? And we get it from the state?
Loosely, that's the formula. It's an extract tax.
Right, that's how it started, and goes to the state, and then the state sort of proportions it out. Thank you.
Any other questions? Next, we have the livable landscapes.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
North Caddy, 582,000. What is that about?
Showing some love.
What are they doing with $500,000?
Don't ask me, ask them.
I'm asking.
No, you said me.
It's the trail.
Yes.
It's the DNL trail.
All these are already existing projects.
Yeah, it's for the DNL Trail in Northampton and North Caddy, and I know North Caddy had also received a separate grant this year for $75,000 for their Main Street Greenway project.
Thank you. At least now it's on the YouTube so people can actually hear what it's for. Thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah, I had one.
Sure.
Since you raised the issue of trails and Brian is here, do we have any trail expenditures that you're anticipating in next year's budget?
There will be the third phase of the Norbath Trail to rehab some of the 3 bridges that are on the trail, it's mainly just the decking on the bridges, as well as some structural repairs to the bridge over Bull's Head Road that is frequently hit.
Mr. Emili, I always appreciate the way you put things. Just do.
I have a question, if I may, on that.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Norbath Trail, and I'm asking you because I admit I have no idea what the answer is. I know it's very popular, just like the DNL, very popular. Yes, Ms. Barron, I know. Someone mentioned, though, and I haven't been down Weaversville in a bit, as far as where it cuts over across Hanoverville Road, or is it Weaversville? I'm sorry, Weaversville Road. That there's concern about, because the traffic there has gotten more, like everywhere else, crazy, that there's like more towards dusk, I guess, and dawn, that there's signage or something that's reflective or lighting up. Is that, whose responsibility would that be our responsibility? Would that be the municipality? Would that be the state? I have no idea. If in fact we wanted to enhance safety signage at that intersection.
Can't hear you back.
It would be the
Yeah,
county's,
yeah.
the county's responsible for the trail crossings.
All right, I guess the question that I would have is, if we could assess, and moving forward, some of the roads, as we all know, traffic has gotten wild. And it's not that Weaversville was ever not wild. I mean, it's, at night especially, you take your life in your hands sometimes driving on it. So I can imagine, and I don't know why somebody would be out at night on the North Bath Trail, but, that's not my. I do wish we could just look into it as we move forward, like signage at some of these specific intersections where there might be a lot of traffic. If there's a need for more reflective, or, I don't know how council feels, but I mean, I think that since we're doing the trails, I don't want to wait for something to happen, not that it will, but if there's preventative things we can do that aren't that costly, it's something I think we should consider. That's all.
Sure, we can look into that.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? All right, so as we close this section, I have just one more question as a clarification. So the county's put $3 million in, but so far I've only seen a million reflected. That's because we borrowed against it this year, correct? So we borrowed from
That's-
next year to purchase this property.
Correct. So $2 million goes in every year, aside from this proposed budget, to the parks-related OSI, and then $1 million goes into the farmland preservation, Maria Benzoni's organization.
Okay, moving on to the custodial services. These are specifically salaries, correct? And they're for all county buildings.
Yes.
Position changes?
There are none.
Feel-
Michael, what's our complement of custodial staff right now?
Number of employees? 32 total.
Is that,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, full and part-time, or is it full-time, or?
That would, both full and part-time.
You don't have the breakdown. I'm just curious where we're at this point with our custodial staff.
Roughly how many?
If you don't have it, you can get it to us.
How many full-timers versus part-timers?
Come on up.
You gotta come up and talk.
Yep. This is Michelle Graffin. She's the custodial
Thank you.
superintendent.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, welcome.
Right now, I only have 2 part-time, and all the rest of my staff is full-time.
That'd be 30. Let me just say, thank you. It's been a while, it's been a tough year, and your staff has done a great job, from my perspective, on making sure everything's
Thank you very
taken
much.
care of in here. So I just want to pass that on to you.
I will let them know.
Yes.
Michelle, that's spread out among how many buildings? So that's staff in this building? Members of
I
the board,
actually,
and-
I oversee 11 of the county buildings.
Does that include Gracedale, or do they have their separate?
No, they have their own housekeeping.
We do everything but Gracedale, right?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. On page 14, it says you have 30 approved positions, full-time, and 6.8 part-time. I guess my question, and some of the issues we've seen in other department is recruiting and retention. Has that been an issue? And if so, why? If not, why are you doing a better job than other departments?
It has been tough, I will be honest, but most of the positions are filled usually within a few months. And we have a lot that have retired over the last at least 5 years. So it's not like they were like just up and leaving. It was because of retirement that I lost those people.
Oh, okay, well, I guess that's a good thing then. For them, they get to retire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Myers?
Equipment, are you buying new equipment? Are you set up with equipment to get the job done?
This budget is requesting 3 new floor burnishers. But that's it in terms of equipment requests. Everything else, we need, or we have what we need.
You have auto scrubbers and things like that?
Yes.
Do our robots come under this budget?
No, I don't believe so.
Where are they? Maintenance for those?
We
Contract.
bought them, there has not been any maintenance costs for those, and we have a warranty for the UV lights.
I have a question on that.
Go ahead.
Mr. Barron, the rescue funds, the funds we used to buy some of the PPE and that, is that still available for buying things regarding keeping this building and other buildings clean, sterile?
We have enough PPE through 911 and through purchases we've made with O&M. We have enough PPE to get us through. The rescue funds are all accounted for and spoken for at this point, but we do have enough PPE through the building.
All right, but it is an allowable expense.
Absolutely it is, yes.
That's what I wondered. All right, thank you.
The people that are in your other buildings, are they traveling from building to building?
Yes.
And they're being reimbursed while they're doing this?
Yes.
Any other questions regarding custodial services? Moving on to operations and maintenance. Any questions?
Yeah, just to repeat what I had before with custodial. You have 25 positions, full-time, no part-time. Are they all full, or what's the status as far as position goes right now?
I believe we're fully staffed. We do have one employee that's retiring this coming Friday, but aside from him, I don't believe there's any other open positions right now.
That's good, thank you.
Pooled occupancy costs, I noticed went down. Was there a specific point why that dropped?
Yeah, the reason for that includes those line items in there for any kind of like supplies that we need to purchase for any kind of major renovations. We did have some larger renovations last year, such as like the elections office. So that's kind of why those are one-time expenses, really.
So you're projecting going forward, you don't need that amount of money?
Correct, yes.
That's all. I wasn't sure, because I know they get assigned and to these areas, and I was wondering if there was a specific, but you mentioned election, so thank you.
Question on your education part of things. Is this to keep your maintenance men updated with the latest HVAC stuff?
Yeah, so we've had some employees that expressed interest in, advancing or moving from like a general mechanic position to an HVAC position. So they'll take courses at the community college, and this is the reimbursement that the county offers them.
I was going to ask you about that, but that answers my question. That's good. Thank you.
What are some of the professional services that would come under that category?
Professional services.
On page 154 in the blue book.
So almost all of those funds are for our HVAC maintenance contract that we have with McClure Company.
And anything else is something that comes past us,
Correct.
larger contracts, et cetera. Okay, any other questions? My favorite subject, bridges summary. I dream of bridges.
What's left with the, Madam President, what's left with the P3 bridge improvements? Mike, what's left with the P3 improvements? How many more are on that list?
There's, there's 2 that are under construction right now, and then after that, there's 3 remaining.
Mike, I'm looking, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm just,
Mike, I'm looking at the Act 13, 44, and 89, and except for 89, the allotment has gone down. Is that just reflecting what we're planning on doing, you know, as opposed to what we did last year on those
Yeah,
bridges?
the budgetary fund balance is going down because we have a couple of different active projects in those, in Act 13, as well as Act 44. There was one that was recently completed. Act 89, we haven't had any recent projects funded through that org, so that's why the fund balance is growing.
Okay. And then the operating expenditure, because I didn't see anything written on that. The operating expenditure I see went down about 1.46 million. Is that has to do with what the expenditures on the cost centers?
Are we on the summary sheet?
I'm looking on page 159 in the white book, and I'm just looking at the operating expenditure under expenditures by category. It's
Yeah.
Gone down 1,465,700.
Yeah, that's a result of the P3 payment schedule dropping in 2022.
Oh, that's true. It's supposed to be dropping, right? Yeah. Sorry, I don't always keep P3 in the
That's
top of
understandable.
my mind.
you're so lucky.
I rely on our representatives to inform me. Thank you.
What year was the first P3 bridge completed? That was pre my time, correct?
Yes, there was it was just like a safety rehabilitation where they just updated guide rail, like they didn't do any real structural work on the bridge itself. That was done in 2017.
So does that count as part of the 10-year maintenance?
Yes.
Don't you remember the photo wall?
No,
Okay.
I'm blocking
I
that
do.
from my memory. There's been so much fun since then. Just curious, because I guess we'll have to shift gears and start talking about that in the future. So let's move on from the summary to just the page on bridges. Are there any further questions about the total bridge budget? Is it our, it says maintaining highway lighting. Is that our job?
It is. At the highway interchanges.
Oh.
The controversial subject.
Well, I've just noticed it's getting darker at night as I drive, and it could be my old eyes, but I think there's some lights out on 22 as I approach 33 intersection. So where does it start? Where does our responsibility start and end? And if it's not ours, whose is it?
We're responsible for keeping the lights on at most of the highway interchanges in the county.
But then the rest of the stretch is,
PennDOT.
okay.
We've had that. That's come up, I think, every.
Really?
That is a weird topic.
My eyes are sensitive to that at this time.
Do we have a contractor who does that for us?
Yes, we have a contractor that handles all the repairs that are necessary to the light poles. They get hit fairly often, and they handle all that work for us.
Are we using LED lights?
No, they're not set up to accommodate LED lights right now.
That's something we'll look at in the future?
We are looking into it, yes.
Someday maybe we'll get a PennDOT rep in here. That'll be fun. Act 13, bridge improvements.
Tara had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Since we're talking about lighting, I did notice on my way into Allentown that there were several lights with solar on them. Is that something that we could look into too?
I can look into it. I don't know if any solar lights are, feasible or approved for use on highway interchanges.
Okay. Is it? But I did notice that they are near the American Parkway.
Okay.
I have one question on bridges while you're there. Over the last 4 years, how many bridges did we do that were non-P3? Do you have that on the top of your memory? Just a curiosity question. I know there was one in Bath.
Yeah, there was Bridge 115 in Bath, Mill Street, and this year we just completed Bridge 225 up in Upper Mount Bethel. And then there was also another project where we did latex modified concrete overlays on the bridge, so completely redid the bridge decks on 3 bridges.
And then there was the combined one between Lehigh and Northampton and
The Copley North.
yeah, Copley. Okay.
Is that 162?
Yes.
Well, we also did another combined one downstream from there, or upstream. So is that another joint bridge there too?
The Cementon Bridge will be replaced.
Another one the other way?
Is that the one with North County?
Yeah.
North County.
Was that, did we do that one too? No.
I'm not sure.
Okay, that might have been before. Okay, thank you.
Moving into Act 13, bridge improvements, which it says capital is for the anticipated replacement of the following bridges. So we finished 162. I'm going to skip, did we finish Bridge 8?
No,
No.
And I'll let somebody else say the one in the middle, because I can't even say it out loud. What's the status on the other 2?
So Bridge 15, PennDOT has approved the plans, the specifications, the permitting that's going to be required for the demolition of the existing bridge. They are planning to get that out to bid, I believe, in December, and demolition should be starting early in 2022.
There you go.
And then the potential rebuild will be?
The last date they're giving me is 2024.
Who do we got to talk to? That's all I got to know. To be continued, I'm not going to blame you. How about the Williams Township Bridge?
The contract's been awarded to Nyleve Bridge. They're ready to start. The problem on that one's the utility companies. They were not able, or one of the landowners wasn't willing to grant them an easement that they needed to put a pole up. We kind of went back to the drawing board. We finally have a utility relocation plan that will work. It's just a question of getting the companies back out there to actually relocate their lines. And I'm emailing basically every day to try to get this done.
So the contract to begin the build is awarded?
It's been awarded, yes.
And when is the start date potentially?
There's a chance it could still start this fall.
No stream restrictions there or any?
No.
Okay. It's a nice thing. Any other questions by anybody who doesn't dream of bridges? Moving on to Act 44, bridge improvements. Upper Mount Bethel Township on National Park Road. Is that completed? You said that was completed.
Yes, that was
Oh,
done
those are
in
done.
October.
It's amazing how we can build bridges. And Act 89. Is that just the pool that's left for the rest of the county bridges?
We have nothing planned for that org at this time.
Mr. Cusick,
one,
question.
one last, on bridges, I think it's 31. Is there any plan for that one at this time?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to P3, bridge improvements. I got nothing. Anybody else?
Can we get a quick update?
Sure.
Quick update? How about just what's left?
5 bridges.
Yes. So there is, two bridges are currently under construction. One of them is Bridge 195, it's Little Creek Road in Lower Mount Bethel. Construction on that one started back in September. Krieger installed the new precast concrete arch bridge, they backfilled it. At this point, we're just waiting for them to come and pave it, install the guide rail, and that one can be open. The other bridge that's in construction right now is 219, which is Abel Colony Road in Plainfield Township. And it's almost the exact same scenario there as 195. They started in September, the bridge is in, they backfilled it, we're just waiting on them to come back and pave.
So my understanding from yesterday is it's like we're this hair close on finishing both of those bridges, correct?
Yeah, once they return to pave it, it should be open within 2 weeks, I would think.
Left in the contract, did you say 24?
There's 3 bridges remaining after those 2 are done. There's Bridge 41, which is another one on Little Creek Road. There's Bridge 101, it's Hanoverville Road, and that one is currently in design. It's right next to the Norfolk Southern line, so it kind of complicated the design process a little bit, coordinating with them. And the last bridge is 124, it's Willowbrook Road, and that one's also in design. Willowbrook.
So then, what I meant to say 2024, I meant to say, they're maintaining these bridges, when do they turn them back over to the county? Is it a 10-year thing, or?
It's a 10-year maintenance period on the bridges.
So 27?
It's 10 years from the date it's completed, so.
Oh, each bridge, well,
Yeah,
they
so-
turn them over, like, this one's 10 years, so they'll turn them, they won't turn them all over at the same time.
Yes,
When they're complete, then it's 10 years.
yes, sir.
Okay. And are we gonna do compliance on their maintenance? Is there some kind of compliance on their maintenance? None of them were turned over yet, right?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Dertinger's having a fit. Can we get a medic, please?
All right, I'm done with the questions. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Actually, in line with that, if you look at the bottom of page 161, it does say that beginning next year in 2022, the P3 contract enters the maintenance phase with a fixed amount of approximately $2.6 million per year.
What page? I'm sorry.
On page 164.
Oh, thank you.
And the time frame on that 2.6 million per year that we're going to be giving is variable because it depends on the end. That's going to be a continuing expense, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I
for the
believe
county.
the payment schedule is fixed really regardless of when the maintenance period actually kicks in for any of the individual bridges. I think that the payment that we're making next year will basically stay the same through 2028, I believe.
So the 2.6 million is locked in through at least 2028?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are those done in milestone payments or are those done in one shot for the year?
It's,
We haven't even talked about maintenance because we can't get through design phase, but,
at this point, the milestone payments are done, it's just one annual payment.
interesting. That should be fun. So when they're out of that 10-year phase, then they get turned back to the county, right? Chip.
Correct.
Any other question? Public Works cost allocation. I should say before I move on, Mr. Mealy, thank you for all you do for representing our concerns on that project.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, you and Mr. Kuklinski have worked very well together, and I know that you personally have gone out and had to do a lot yourself to get some of these easements and this stuff done, and I appreciate it. I think we all do. Any questions regarding cost allocation? Okay, let's move on to capital projects, which is on page 183. In the white book. And 196 in the blue. Do you want to review the summary for us, sir?
Sure. If you'd like, I can kind of just almost treat it as a pseudo capital projects improvement update and just kind of run through everything. And
It's up to council. Do you want them to go through each page, or do you want them to do the whole? Council? Go ahead.
okay. So the countywide, that's all just IT-related purchases. It's pretty consistent with prior years. So moving ahead to the government center, the streetscape improvements, that's the Washington Street crosswalk that was completed in the spring. The remaining unencumbered funds for that are in the budget will just be returned to the general fund. Next on the list is the exterior repairs, and that's one where we're just requesting to roll the unencumbered funds forward to next year. The cooling tower in the annex penthouse right above us was installed in June. It's worked very well for us throughout the cooling season. And that one, the remaining unencumbered funds would just be reallocated to other capital projects.
Mike, is there a warranty on that cooling tower installation?
Yes, I believe it's 1 year, but I can verify that. The South Union Street lot, the demolition of the county-owned properties at 150 and 152 South Union was completed in late 2020, and although site grading work was completed early in 2021, the remaining unencumbered funds will just be reallocated to other capital projects. And skipping ahead a little bit, there's a 2013 bond project for the Juvenile Justice Center generator replacement. This is for design work to replace the existing generator with a larger unit that's capable of handling the HVAC equipment in the building in case of an outage. That project is currently wrapping up design and should be out to bid later this fall.
What's going to be our power source for that?
It's diesel.
We're going to be, not one gas, going to be diesel.
Correct. Then going down to the Juvenile Justice Center renovations, this is a new project request. We're requesting $50,000 to address a drainage-related issue outside of the gymnasium.
Dig around the side of the building and try to
We had looked into that, but we feel that the better option is to basically just put a concrete pad in that area, because there's already an existing drain, but not a lot of water is actually making its way to it. So I believe that if we put a pad in and really funnel the water to the drain, it's not going to infiltrate down and seep through the wall as it's currently doing.
What are we going to put between that and the wall? Anything?
Not at this time.
So could you double back? Where did you say the generator project was?
Oh, that's coming out of the 2013 bond funding.
Okay, thank you. That's not on this page, that's forward. Okay. And then to the jail would be next.
Sure. So the D-tier renovations project, we received the bids recently for the electrical work on the project, and we had previously received bids earlier in the year for the general contracting, the plumbing, and the HVAC portions. So at this point, an executive order is being issued recommending that the contracts be awarded so that we can move that project forward. The gate replacement is a new funding request. We're asking for $20,000 to replace one of the roll-up gates, Gate 6, which is located right outside like the loading dock area. It's one of the sally ports that the prison's been having a lot of problems with. And the surveillance system project, that's one where a PO had been issued to Stanley Security earlier this year to upgrade the existing analog video system with an IP-based system. They've had some delays in procuring the equipment for that, but they are scheduled to get that project started later this year.
Question.
Yes, sir.
If you, you have trouble getting that equipment and they change up, are you going to have to come back to us for more money?
There will not be any kind of additional request for that.
Okay.
Question on
Yes, sir.
the tier renovations. That needs to come before council, does it not?
Correct.
When is your anticipated time frame? Because I think there's no finance committee meeting in December. Is there?
Is that going to be on the next finance? It should be on the next finance committee next week.
Okay.
Moving on. Human Services Facility?
The data center project, I don't believe that one's going to be wrapped up by IT this year, so any kind of remaining funds would just roll over into next year for that.
Gracedale?
Did you
Nursing home.
skip the forensic center?
I'm looking at 184, I
Oh,
didn't
sorry,
get
yeah,
there.
okay, 0, got it.
Gracedale, the bathrooms, the project to replace the bathroom flooring in some of the resident rooms in the tower is currently out to bid. Construction should be starting in early '22 for that one. The nurse call system was completed this year. The remaining unencumbered funds would just be reallocated to other capital projects. The grease interceptor replacement contract was awarded to D&N Construction earlier this year to replace the grease interceptor tank. The replacement tank has been ordered. We anticipate them to start construction sometime in December. So funding would roll over into 2022 to complete that work. It should take them, I'd say about a month once they start. The paving, this is the project to repair and repave portions of the Gracedale Gardens. The engineer is currently wrapping up the design work on that, and we expect that to be out to bid later this fall. Once again, the unencumbered funds will roll forward for construction in 2022. The water tower, this is a proposed project to rehabilitate the existing water tower that's serving the Gracedale campus. This is another one that's currently out to bid. I think they come back in December, and funding will roll forward, obviously, for 2022 construction. Okay. And the Gracedale complex roof repairs, we completed a repair project on the voting machine warehouse early this year, as well as replaced the roof on one of the parks maintenance barns earlier this year as well. So that line item is wrapped up, and the remaining funds can be reallocated.
Okay. Yes, sir?
Actually, it's probably a good news question. I know over the years, we've had elevator problems out there with maintenance and repair, but everything looks like it's working fine. I see there's no money needed for elevator.
Yeah, at Gracedale, the elevators are in pretty good condition right now. We do meet with our ThyssenKrupp, our elevator company, just about every year to kind of review all of our elevator needs, how everything's working.
Yeah.
At this time, there's no major expenses planned.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, well, maybe they do, given what we have, our operation, those elevators get a lot of use, and I know we've had various times throughout the years, that's why we ended up putting more elevators over there, but I'm glad to hear that. I didn't see it, and I just wanted to check with you. I figured it'd be a happy story kind of.
Yeah, there
report.
is funding requested in the 3-year plan for elevator work
that I wanna jinx
here at the
anything.
government center, but at Gracedale,
No,
we're
no,
in good shape.
Gracedale, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine, thank you.
Very good. Next. Key 3, which we just
3 I already
discussed.
covered unless there's any other questions.
Parks, is there anything?
The Louise Park facility upgrades, so this is for the colonial bathroom replacement project. It's currently in design. We had been working with CXT, who's a precast bathroom manufacturer. So we'll be issuing a purchase order through Sourcewell to procure the bathroom itself. And the design work, or the site work, will be bid out soon, and we're expecting that work will commence in spring of 2022 to actually install it. The barn renovations, this is existing funding that we're looking to roll forward in 2022 and supplement with OSI County Parks funding to construct a new maintenance barn at Louise Park. And Wyattsuck Park, Phase 1, the design plans are currently being reviewed by DCNR. This is to install, or to replace the existing pavilion out there with a larger one, as well as install new playground equipment. And the existing funding in the capital budget will just roll forward for 2022.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, right?
Yeah, on Wyattsuck Park, the fencing, it looks great now that it's gone. Is there a plan to replace that or just to leave it natural?
Natural. It'll stay the way it is.
Good.
And last, the Forensic Center?
That one, just the remaining unencumbered funds will be reallocated.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Is part of that 2,600 going to the portrait of Mr. Dertinger to put out there that I heard about? I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Absolutely,
With the caption
yes.
saying on time and under budget?
Yeah, I don't know. I just heard a rumor, probably not true.
Yeah, on a more serious note, the old morgue, is there a plan? I don't see anything related to that. Has a plan been developed to reuse that, or what's on tap for that?
Currently, we're using it for our parks groundskeepers as a break room area, and when they have to work snow removal and maybe stay overnight, that's an area that they can utilize for, to sleep overnight in a secure, a safe environment without having to risk driving home to, get back to their own bed, so to speak. So that's the current plan for the
There's
building.
slabs available? Is that? I mean, seriously though, I mean, it's nice that we're reusing it, but is that what it's purposed for?
It was just an office building. He had specimens in the basement, but they weren't working there.
Okay.
It was just it's an
It's an
ordinary
office building.
farmhouse, essentially.
I know, I'm reacting to that word. Could we do we need to run through the countywide improvements under the computer, the refresh, video conferencing, any of those
I just had
items?
one question on that.
Yes, sir.
Being serious here. Video conferencing refresh. And I'm just curious because Mr. Giovanni, I know, is our resident expert up here on council. What exactly are we video refreshing? Is part of it this? Where I know
So-
courtroom number 1, there was talk.
So what we have a lot of the Polycom systems that the courts utilize. That Polycom, yeah. Did I say that right? Okay.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
What is that?
So the Polycom systems are actually a comm system that works between the jails and the courtrooms. A lot of that equipment does need to be recycled and updated. It is a secure connection on top of the fact, because of certain requirements of the AOPC, we have to have specific equipment in there. So we have that plan to be updated each year. A lot of the stuff we bought during COVID, the video conferencing stuff we have, is good enough for the conference rooms and things like that. This is largely for the Polycom systems used in the courtrooms that
So
need
this
to be
is
updated.
primarily, like you said, I know the judges, they'll do the remote and, all right, so that's where this is primarily for.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
So you just said there's zero in the budget because you bought enough and you don't need any more.
Well, there is refresh for the Polycom stuff, that's the video conferencing. However, we have taken into account in all of the operations and maintenance, the not new equipment, but as Mr. Giovanni will tell you, we constantly talk about watching our footprint grow with computer equipment because there is licensing required with all of those devices that we deploy. So we're very careful with that because, and our budget reflects that. Our capital budget reflects the licensing costs. As you may be aware, we had to shore up with Microsoft last year for about $400-some thousand.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Video conferencing, are we doing anything with the magisterials?
So the MDJs do have the ability to do night court from their house. Much of that is provided through the Polycom system that we have available at the jail, and utilizing web conferencing. We provide internet connection paid for by the county to MDJs at their home, and things like that, so they can operate their night court.
So they're no longer having to go back to their building, they can do it from home now?
If that is their choice, yes, we provide that capability. It's been it's been around for a while. It's tested, tried and true. We have a good system with the MDJs.
So we don't have to do any updating or refreshing with that?
No, we're
At this
good there.
point?
Where are we with the Clarity system?
The Clarity system testing is ready to be deployed, so we have it through the test phases, and you should see that coming soon.
So last year at this time, we were told it was ready to go. So and we're not,
Well, it's ready to go, but it has to go through the testing phases.
but it's taken a year, so what's?
Yeah, well, we don't want to deploy a system that you're not going to be able to use. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes, yes. Now, bear in mind, this room is not a broadcast center, so it's either all live or nothing. Like, or it's all live or all remote. So, because you'll still get feedback and the like. But this will allow you to integrate all other types of meetings, so people who choose other platforms will be able to log into your meetings and see everything exactly the same way.
Sure.
Steve, I'm just curious, and this is just down the road, because, you know, we had had to get into the whole video thing here. And I understood what we talked about with this room. But and this is a big if we ran into an issue like that again, is it possible that a room, for example, the staff training room, a confined specific area, could be set up so that council could meet there? It could be either from home or in person, and it would actually function. I mean, that it could be fitted to do that. I know, given what this is, you're saying you can't, but I just wondered if there was a designated spot that could conceivably be fixed to do that if the future events demand it.
No, what I would recommend is that if council members feel the need to be here, we do what we did previously, where we have one location for, say, administration, have a council member in their office if there is an issue with internet reliability and there wanted to be some coordination. Primarily, the issue, as Mr. Giovanni will say, is your web presence out there to broadcast to the people. And we want to make sure that that is a clean transmission. We want to make sure that there's no feedback and that everybody can hear us out on the YouTube. So that is really the concern, because this is not a broadcast studio. It is not It is not, it was never conceived in that way.
Understood,
So-
but that's not my question though is, could a room, not that council members are here, there, and everywhere, council actually would be coming in. They would be present in a county, in a room, in a county facility, meeting live, and they could interact with the public from that location.
The best way to do that would be to have you come to the building and segregate you into different areas, i.e. somebody in like the president's office of council, somebody sitting maybe at their cubicle, another person in the training room.
All right.
That would be the best way to do that.
I would just say going forward, I mean, we don't have Steve Jobs anymore, or anybody, or you know, Wachowski, or whoever, whatever his name is. But here's the thing. I just think, I know Charles was shaking his head no, but I know we're saying no, right now, no. But no's have often become possibilities and then yeses. I just think as a council member, looking at what we did, the idea of somebody go in this office, one of you guys maybe head over here. From my perspective as a legislator in the county governing body, I think going forward to just leave it like that, I don't find acceptable. I think that, and I'm just one of 9, because we're all equal up here, I think we should look into possible remedies for that council as a body could meet in one spot and interact with the public. I don't think we're talking about a Mars mission here. I mean, Mr. Giovanni and I've talked, he can correct me if I'm wrong. I get it if somebody doesn't want to do that or they feel it's an unwarranted cost. I'm just saying we learned a lot over the last few years. I certainly did, on how things can be stretched to what you never imagined could happen, might happen. So I just don't want to take a flat, oh no, that can't be done, as an answer, because I doubt if that's really a real answer. And that's all I'm saying. I know it hasn't been investigated that well.
It has not, and I hesitate to do that investigation because my confidence level with people being able to use the technology, while we deploy the technology, that is fine. As Mr. Giovanni will tell you, the technology is only as good as the end user who is using it. So.
Wait a minute, but if we're in the same place, who are you talking about? I mean, if all of council is in a room, you are in control of the technology that we're using.
We do, but sometimes even that is glitchy.
What I would recommend is going forward, council may want to consider, we've done this many times over the years, hiring a consultant. You have that power to look into this and give us a third-party opinion on what might be possible and what the cost would be. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I think we've made a pre-decision, and anything said to the contrary will be refuted and said it can't be done. So I'm just considering that that's something county council could do, and that's, we've done it for various things over the years. Bring in someone and then have them tell us what the ramifications would be, what would be entailed, and how much it would cost, or if it's impossible, as you say. That's all.
Understand.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the IT issues in the budget? Moving on to the 2013 bond issue projects. Do you want to run through them again as you just did? I think that's helpful.
Sure. So the government center, the emergency generator, that's for the juvenile justice
Right.
replacement that I had touched on previously. Were there any other questions about that one? Okay, so at Gracedale, there's another emergency generator project. This is part of that same project. This is the same engineer designing it. So over at Gracedale, there's currently 2 life safety generators that we are looking to consolidate into one as part of this project. It'll handle all the loads that the original 2 generators were.
And then the Public Works Bridge reconstruction.
Oh, we used up the remaining funds in the 2013 bridge bonds this year.
Any other, moving on to 2019 bond issue projects.
Yeah, this is just the leftover funds from the purchase of the Human Services Building, as well as the Forensic Center.
So then, if we move to the capital improvements plan,
Can I,
Yes,
quick,
sir,
if we
sorry.
go back to the 2019
Yes,
bond issue, there's still $890,000 remaining. Is that all accounted for going forward, or is there going to be money left over?
We do have a plan to start spending that money down.
Is it
care
at
to
the?
share?
Yeah, at the Forensic Center or the Human Services Facility? Because that's kind of where you're limited to spending it, that's my understanding.
So you're stepping on the big headline.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if there was courtesy of the floor earlier, I think there wasn't, I would have said that part of what you're going to
Oh,
see.
sorry, there was, I forgot it. I apologize. Courtesy of the floor, Mr. McClure.
Thank you. I live in Bethlehem Township.
I just moved
So
things.
we have come very close, and we're going to be presenting that. And I realize it's going to cause some dissonance because it really is sort of what our overall philosophy with capital improvements and repairs with respect to our physical plant is going to be moving forward over the next, I don't know, 10 years at the next finance meeting. So there's that 890 that you've referenced is going to be used to begin to fund the exciting project you're going to hear with Johnson Controls at the Finance Committee meeting.
That will be next Wednesday.
Yes, it's
at
going to
this
be very
time.
exciting. I would come to that meeting.
Okay.
But that's what that money's for.
We'll look forward to it.
Okay.
That's
Is
just
there
a
any
teaser.
further courtesy of the floor?
It's a
And,
cliffhanger.
excuse me, and I want to tease it, it's a GISA-type project.
Ah.
So if anybody gets the flu, don't get your COVID booster the day before. We all gotta be here. That's okay. Any other questions? The overall capital improvement plan.
Mike, you got anything scheduled for early part of next year with meetings?
Not at this time, no.
Are you gonna give me a couple of days notice? please?
Absolutely.
Wait, I didn't hear that, what? Oh. So I think, we reviewed all these things pretty much, or no? What are we missing here? This is just the overall timelines, correct?
This is the 3-year plan.
RTU replacement for the 911 center? That's the only thing you haven't talked about, pretty much.
That's one that would potentially be obsolete as a result of the project that Executive McClure just hinted at.
We're just all around. We're just sniffing it and it's going nowhere. Okay. Thank you. And it says there's a 190 in my book, but, okay, here we go. Wayne Grove Memorial Park, Gale Farm improvements. Those are on this page 190. I don't think we've talked about those. There's 200,000, or that's just, again, timeline projections.
Yeah, Wayne Grove would be to fund the, essentially the next, like, another site development plan, given all the development that's happened in the surrounding areas. The master plan that was put together years ago is kind of outdated at this point. So that's why that project is on the capital plan. And Gulf Farm development would be for the actual construction of phase 1 that we've been talking about for a little while now.
So are there any last questions on this section of the budget? from anyone?
I just have a comment on Mr. Heckman brought up about the crosswalks. I feel strongly about that too. And I don't know what the best practices are, if there's any money left over. I think there's 3 or 4 crosswalks on that Norbath Trail. But I know it gets dark early. People still like to exercise. So, thank you.
Okay, there's no other questions regarding this phase. Are there any questions on the overall budget going back? Anything left over from anything we've discussed at this time that they can answer for us? Mr. G? Tommy G?
Improvements. I'm assuming the refresh years are stepped out because of logistics of getting the hardware. Am I correct on it, Steve?
So, yeah, and just from personal experience, my notebook computer promised in February just got to me. So we're about 8 months out. So a lot of the refresh stuff is we're ordering now, and anytime anything becomes available, we just order it.
Right. That's an issue. Okay.
Anything else? Anything for the overall budget? Okay, so this concludes our budget hearings on November 30th, Tuesday, will be the budget amendment hearing. On November 19th, all budget amendments are due to the office. Last week, by noon, thank you. And you received a form last week on the desk on how to do that. If you have questions, obviously ask the staff.
Oh, I can write this out now. I looked at the form, which we've used, but if you're going to take money, if you want to put money somewhere, you have to identify where you're taking the money from. And I think that's an important part, that it said where you can put it and how you can do it. But I mean, we can't create. That's right. So I think that's important. If somebody says, well, I'd like to put X amount more in this budget, you better have a place you're taking it from, which, unless you're getting rid of vehicles, which we not really have a lot of them, or, you know what I mean? You have to dump something in the budget to get it. I just wanted to be, we're all clear on that unless you use contingency, which, you know, well, no, you can't. Well, we have contingency left. So
Yes, we have some left. Oh,
all right, that's all. I just wanted to clarify that for you.
When are the contingent, when do we make those? Is that due by the 19th also? No. Okay, we could do that up to the end. Okay. Thank you. Adjourned.
I don't even know what I would be wearing. Just say yes. Giovanni's question is a yes. Yes. You have to tell them a personal story. Your bit is fine.